Hi, I'm Natalie Crabtree of the Crabtree Arts Collective, and I have the great honor and privilege of being a pattern designer, a sample maker, a pattern writer, and a ghostwriter in the quilting industry.
So welcome, Natalie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we wanted to talk with you today to just see a little bit more about how you design everything. What is your design process when you're trying to create a pattern? Are you looking at scale? Is there anything in particular that you're going for in order to create?
Yeah, so a lot of my quilt designs come from inspiration directly from the fabric. I mean, sometimes I'll have, a design in my head and I'm just kind of waiting like for the right time to pull it out, the right fabric collection, and then I have files on my computer of just like different quilt ideas that, or like pictures on my phone of like, anything like architecture. If we're driving, if I see something really interesting, like I'll take a picture of it and then I'm waiting for the right collection to use it on. But sometimes, a lot of the times, because I work directly with a lot of fabric companies, when those fabric collections come in, I just get really inspired by the theme of the fabric. Is it traditional? Is it modern? What do I want to convey with this quilt design? And then generally either I sit down and just play in EQ. I use electric quilt. So sometimes I'll just sit down and play and find things that work, get rid of things that don't work. Or sometimes I just like have an idea and I have to just like sit down or sketch it out really quick so I don't forget. So there's definitely a lot of methods that that I use to design.
Do you find working on the computer differently versus maybe trying to create a design while sewing? Do you ever sew the quilt box first to try and work it out, or is it always a sketch on the computer or a drawing by hand?
Yeah, well, basically, so much of what I do is digital. It's not very often that I get to like sew one of my creations because number one, I'm just, I do this full time. The majority of what I do is writing. So and then I've got a 3.5-year-old at home, so it's kind of hard to like make progress on a big quilt. So most of what I do is sitting down at the computer and getting that digital image in mind. And then if I'm lucky, I can then sew it up. But oftentimes I don't really have time. I do have a group of women that helps me, the Quilting Collective. They help me sew up samples for my clients or personal samples. So that's great because they're a super talented bunch. But it's so nice to sit down and like sew one of my designs, even if it's just like a few blocks or a smaller version of that quilt. So yeah.
That's wonderful. Do you want to tell us how you got into quilting?
Yeah. So, okay. I'm relatively new, like when it comes to, if you look at like other people that have been doing it, for decades. So my husband and I, lived in Japan for a year in, 2013/14. And like during that time, I wasn't working at, I could obviously, I don't speak Japanese, so I couldn't work, but, I just like, I was so inspired by my time there. I was starting to like come into my own and, I just wanted like a hobby of some kind. And so, when we moved back home, I very shyly asked my mother-in-law if she would teach me how to sew. I mean, like I'd never touched a sewing machine before ever.
Wow.
No, so when in high school, you go through home ec and all that. And I was like, I begged my guidance counselor. I'm like, please don't put me in home ec. Like, I'll do anything. I'll take 3 extra history classes. And they're like, okay, deal. I'm like, yes. So that was not me, or like, I didn't think it was me. And then like, I just took off. So I learned in 2014 and then I would say probably 2015, I started doing sample work. I mean, I just like dove right into the business. And then I want to say probably 2016, I started designing, I would say. So yeah, it's just been like amazing. But yeah, I mean, I'd never touched a sewing machine. So, I basically like all of the knowledge was from scratch there. I mean, my mom never sewed, she was always like a working mom, just like, just super diligent, like running kids back and forth, like to programming and stuff. So, I mean, it was a whole new world for me.
That's incredible. And you guys have made a very successful business out of it because,
Yeah.
as some people may or may not know, Natalie and her husband Joel, they ghostwrite for some of your favorite pattern designers that you probably have worked with and
I
may not
know.
know. Can you tell us what your favorite sewing notion is? Everyone seems to have one.
Yeah, so I had to really think about this. I would say that probably one of my favorite things is I have a few pairs of snips
Wow.
that I'm just obsessed with, and I keep them, in my hand sewing bag. I keep them by my sewing machine, and I keep them like everywhere because like I just to snip things really quick. I love these so much, and also I have a I mean, I'm sure everybody does, but I just have a large assortment of rulers. I want all the rulers, not necessarily like specialty rulers, for
Yeah.
certain blocks, but like, different sizes, different widths, different heights. Like, I love that, very versatile. So,